Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations is one of my personal favorite games of all time. It's the third and final game in the original Phoenix Wright trilogy, and in my opinion, it does a damn near perfect job of concluding everything, from the overarching plot to the individual character arcs. So, why is there a fourth game? I don't know, let's ask Capcom. Hi, I'm Mr. Capcom. The reason why we had Shu Takumi,
the creator and lead director slash writer of the series,
make a fourth Ace Attorney game is because we wanted to make more money. But Ace Attorney is a relatively niche franchise that doesn't make you guys as much money. And that's all. We won't be taking any further questions. You heard the man. For one reason or another, Capcom wanted more funny gay lawyer games, so Shu Takumi said, okay, but it'll be about a new character since Phoenix's story is done. Wonderful. It's great that Capcom's respecting the series creators' wish to have the protagonist with the finished character arc not return. Now, you may be thinking, this game is bad, right? I mean, it's a forced sequel to a franchise that was supposed to be over and done with, so it must suck. Well, no, actually. Despite what some may tell you, Apollo Justice Ace Attorney is a good game, it's just not without its flaws. And you also might be thinking, what the fuck were you wearing on your shirt in that little intro segment skit thingy you did? Well, it's this, Apollo Justice pin that Ren, frequent collaborator on the channel, got me a little while back. I figured I'd put it to use and wear it in a video, especially since it's very topical, but you can't really see it in the intro skit, so that kind of defeated the purpose of it. Here's how this review will work. I'll go by a, well, literal case-by-case basis, talking about the individual cases from the game, delivering my opinions on them. Oh yeah, this video will contain massive spoilers, by the way. Then I'll talk about my likes and dislikes not related to the individual cases, such as the art and music, before delivering a final review score. I'll get into talking about the cases in a second, but first, please consider liking, sharing, and especially subscribing. It's my goal to hit 1K by the end of this year, and if you could help me out, it would mean so much to me. Plus, by turning my post notifications on, you'll be able to see when I upload my video about the next game in the franchise. Also, feel free to comment your personal thoughts on this game and tell me what your favorite case is. But without any further ado. Case 1, Turnabout Trump. What? Oh, come on, you can't just name a case Turnabout Trump and not expect me to make the most obvious joke about it. Not only is this the first case of the game, but it's also the first case to feature our new main character, Apollo Justice. So yeah, I should mention that this is Apollo's first ever trial, and in typical Ace Attorney fashion, it's a homicide case, because what else would someone be on trial for? Unsurprisingly, Apollo is nervous, given how he is trying to defend someone against a murder charge in his very first trial, but not to worry. Here to comfort him is Christoph Gavin, his mentor. So Christoph is like, hey, don't worry, you're only defending a lifelong friend of mine in a case that we can't afford to lose. Thanks, Christoph. As of now, we know 3 things about Apollo. He's nervous, but he's fine, and he apparently does a cords of steel workout every morning. What's that, you may ask? Good question. I have no idea, and I have now played this entire trilogy. But enough about old Justice over here. Let's meet the defendant of this case. Hey, wait a minute, this guy seems familiar. So yeah, remember how I said that Shu Takumi wasn't bringing Phoenix back? Well, I lied. Sort of. You see, Takumi really didn't want to bring Phoenix back, I was being honest about that. What I didn't mention was that Capcom went, hey, you know how you wanted the new game to have a new protagonist? Well, we actually still want you to bring Phoenix back. And so Shu Takumi went, okay, and brought him back. And made him homeless, took away his attorney's badge, and had him accused of murder in the first few minutes of the game. Power move, honestly. Oh, also, given how this is the game's tutorial case, Payne is the prosecutor, whoa! Back to the game, though. Phoenix has been accused of murdering a man by the name of Shady Smith during a game of poker. Yes, I fucking love gambling! At a restaurant called the Borscht Bull Club. The reason why he's a suspect is because, 1, he was the only person present in the room that wasn't the waitress or, you know, the victim, and 2, his fingerprints were found on the murder weapon, a bottle of grape juice. Huh. Obviously, Phoenix is not the actual culprit, rather he's a mere piano player at the restaurant.
even though he can't play piano.
So it's up to us to defend him. And defend him we do, leading to Christoph being found guilty of the murder. You know, the mentor of Apollo and the guy that assisted him throughout most of the trial. So yeah, in a crazy turn of events, Christoph makes a grave slip-up while discussing the events of the case. A slip-up that paints him as the murderer. He takes the stand to defend himself,
but after he's proven wrong time and time again, and a mysterious girl gives us evidence, yeah, that cannot be legal, his nice and well-mannered facade cracks and cracks until he reaches his breaking point. God, it was so nostalgic seeing another Colbert breakdown after such a long time. All in all, Case 1 of Apollo Justice does a good job of making your introduction to the game actually feel natural instead of stiff and tutorial-like, and does a great job of introducing the new mechanics, such as the 3D gimmicks and Apollo's ability to perceive witnesses and detect their nervous habits. The aforementioned twist that it provides is pretty damn cool too. The case isn't flawless though. For one, it feels sort of like it sets up the game's overarching mystery a little too early. I mean, the whole plotline between Phoenix and Kristoff doesn't really become relevant again until the final case of the game, and it also feels like there could have been a case before this to ease you into the game prior to setting up such a crazy storyline. On the other hand though, I can see why the writing team went in this direction, given how they probably felt that it was necessary to have a really promising start to a game most people were probably on the fence about. The other major flaw though is that this case starts up an issue that is annoyingly present throughout the Apollo Justice trilogy. That issue being that the series is actually too afraid to make Apollo the new protagonist, and gives Phoenix the spotlight constantly. It's very present in the latter half of this case, in which Phoenix, who is supposed to be on trial for murder, pretty much takes the lead role back to fight against Kristoff. But despite my problems with Turnabout Trump, it's still, overall, a pretty great case that gets you excited to play more of the game. 8 out of 10. Apollo is left in a really interesting place after the first trial, both literally and figuratively. Because he got his previous boss, arrested for murder, he would have been without a job, but luckily Phoenix took him in under his wing. Now, you may be asking, isn't Phoenix no longer a lawyer? Yes. You see, Phoenix didn't take Apollo in to work at the Wright & Co. law offices, he took him in to work at the Wright Talent Agency, a talent agency consisting of only himself and one other person. And that's the interesting physical place he's in. I'm just saying that so you get, the joke I made earlier. And now you may be asking, who's the other person at the agency? Okay, first of all, you have so many fucking questions. And second of all, the mysterious girl from the previous trial. She's revealed to be Trucy Wright, Phoenix's adopted daughter. Yeah, if you couldn't already tell, a lot happened during the 7 in-game years between trials and tribulations in this game. All you need to know for now, though, is that Phoenix and Trucy turned the law office into a talent agency after Phoenix got his badge taken away, and Apollo has essentially been tricked into joining the agency. Anyways, let's meet Trucy. Like I said, she's Phoenix's adopted daughter / co-worker, but she's also a third secret thing, a magician. And she's also so fucking adorable, oh my god. After talking to Trucy for a little while, we find out that Phoenix was hit by a car and is currently hospitalized, so we rush to the hospital and... Seriously? No, seriously, out of all the fucking characters you could bring back, fucking Christ. After an extremely uncomfortable conversation with director Hottie / Hickfield. Yeah, keep in mind, Trucy is 15, like 15 years old, as in underage. They should have called this motherfucker Dr. Disrespect. He eventually fucks off and we talk to Phoenix and find out that... okay, this might actually be one of the funniest moments in the game. Basically, a hit-and-run driver sent Phoenix flying 30 fucking feet into a telephone pole and he just walked it off, just a casual everyday thing. The only reason he's in the hospital now is because of a sprained ankle, but he still wants Apollo to find the driver to test his investigative abilities. Once we get back to the law office, we're met with another client, Gael Dune, victim of, noodle stand theft. But he's not the only victim of theft, so is Trucy, who's had her panties stolen. Shu Takumi, I love you and I love this series, I really do. Why the fuck are you so weird with characters that are minors? To be fair, the stolen panties end up being Trucy's magic panties, a fake pair of bloomers she uses for tricks, but I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that I think this case would be better if half of the first investigation day wasn't spent talking about a 15-year-old's missing panties. Just a thought, though. Now, Apollo has been tasked with dealing with 3 requests, and none of which involve defending, which is his, job. That is, until a young woman named Alita Tiala comes in, asking Apollo to defend her fiancé, Waki Kataki, who has been accused of murder. So we move out to investigate the scene, where 2 important events occur. 1, we meet this game's main prosecutor, Clavier Gavin, the younger brother of Christoph Gavin, the guy who we, got arrested for murder last time. Aside from being a prosecutor, Clavier is 3 other things: a rockin' guitarist, a motorcyclist, and a bisexual who wants to fuck Apollo. This is literally the first interaction between them, dude. They're so gay. Anyways, we talked to him for a bit, and then the second most important event occurred. Emma! That's right, baby. Emma Skye from the 5th case of the first game is back, and in the years between her appearance in that case and her appearance in this game, she's transformed from an eager, energetic girl who loves science to a depressed, disgruntled, and just generally pissed off detective, which is probably the most realistic character transformation in the series. Don't worry, she still has a knack for science, though. Moving on, we find out that the murder Waki is currently under investigation for is the murder of a doctor named Pal Maratkis, and oh yeah, I guess we should meet him. Oh my god, this dude is a total himbo idiot. He's my boyfriend. Mine! There's a lot to like about Case 2 of Apollo Justice. Most notably, it does a good job of reintroducing both Emma and, as a result of her return, the forensic science elements from Game 1 Case 5. Which, in case you don't remember the backstory behind it, that case was added into the DS port of the first game after the original trilogy had already been completed, meaning that Emma and her puzzles would not appear for the rest of the trilogy. This made seeing them again even better, especially since this game introduced new twists to the formula. For example, this case introduces the ability to examine and match footprints, which... I won't laugh. Seriously though, the new footprint matching mechanic is really cool. No, stay away! What's also great about this case though, is that most of the new and returning characters, barring some, are great, and the story is really interesting, especially when it comes to the twist villain being revealed, who's none other than Alita Tiala, who framed Waki in order to get his money. Oh, also, if you're wondering what happened with the other 3 plotlines, Wesley had stolen Trucy's magic prop, and the victim, Pal Maractus, was the hit-and-run driver and had attempted to steal the noodle stand before being killed. The case isn't without its flaws, though. Hottie and Wesley are both creepy characters that are uncomfortable in nearly every scene they're in. The whole Panny storyline started out weird. The attempt to connect the 4 investigations together is a bit weird, and as cool of a villain as Alita was, she does kinda just feel like a Dahlia Hawthorne ripoff. Not to mention, this is one of the cases where the flaws of the localization are very present. Like, you're telling me that there was a massive Japanese crime syndicate in Cali? But Turnabout Corner is still a pretty good case, and I'll award it with a 7 out of 10. There are other great aspects of it that I didn't mention in my semi-brief summary of the case. For example, the story of the Kitaki crime syndicate was really nice, and while we're on that topic, hey, Waki, are you free later? I could, be your new fiance. Turnabout Serenade sees a massive nosedive in quality for Apollo Justice, and in typical third case fashion, proves to be the worst one in the game. And by a large margin, too. Let's get into why that is. So this case starts out with a concert, which, That shit looks like ass. Remember when I was talking about the last case and I said that Prosecutor Clavier was also a guitarist? Well, I wasn't kidding. This case sees Apollo and Trucy attending one of the concerts of his band, the Gaviners, for which he is the vocalist and rhythm guitarist. Prior to the second act of this concert, Apollo and Trucy meet Lamuror and Machi, a singer and blind pianist respectively, who are set to perform on stage with the Gaviners during said set. Also, no, I am not singling out Machi's disability for no reason, trust me, it gets important later on. They also meet Romain Latouche, Lamuror's manager, but he's killed during the third set, so it doesn't really matter. Now, notice that I didn't say Latouche died, I said he was killed. So, obviously, a suspect is pinned for the crime. And who is it, you may ask? An audience member? One of the band members? Emma, who's on security detail at the concert? No, the police apprehend Machi. You know, the 14-year-old blind boy whose only connection to the crime was being found unconscious next to the victim? Did it not occur to the police that, I don't know, one of the probably hundreds of concert goers could have snuck backstage and done it? I mean, I guess the police arresting a little disabled boy is realistic, but I don't really think that was the intent. Anyways, to get to the bottom of the case, we gotta investigate. During our investigation, we end up meeting two new characters, the first of whom is Darian Crescent, the lead guitarist of the Gaviners. We stumble upon him arguing with Clavier about a missed cue during their set, which, with the help of an in-game mixing board, which was probably the most fun I had in the case, we determine is the fault of Darian. The second new character is Valent Grammarly, a magician who is also Trucy's uncle. Because of his role in the famous troupe Grammarly Magic Act prior to its disbandment, he was hired to help with the literal onstage magic that went down during the concert. And don't worry, the game shows you unskippable footage of the concert 800 times during the case to make sure you remember it. The investigation unfortunately leaves us in the dark, but luckily, a statement from Lemuel at the end of the first trial gives us a new idea of who the real killer might be. Darian Crescent, Clavier's bandmate. And after some more investigating and trialing, the truth comes out. So basically, Darian and Machi both needed money and teamed up to smuggle special cocoons out of Borginia, the birthplace of Lemuel and Machi. These cocoons are special because they are the only thing that can cure a disease called incuritis, haha, but stealing them is illegal and punishable by death. Machi used one of Lemuel's guitars, which was being gifted to Clavier, to hide the cocoons, putting an igniter inside as well just in case something went wrong. However, the victim, Latouche, secretly doubled as an FBI agent and was on the trail of Darian and Machi. During the second act of the concert, when Darian was off stage, he was confronted by Latouche and had Machi detonate the guitar and destroy the evidence while he killed the agent. While this was happening, Lemuel was running through the air vents while Valent pretended to be her on the other side of the stage as a part of the teleportation trick, which is how she heard the gunshots. Oh, I should also mention that the whole Darian missing the cue during the third act thing was a result of fucking firecrackers, which were the detonators that he had planted inside of the guitar going off. Does that all make sense?
No.
Oh, hell yeah, that means I explained everything right. This case is fucking stupid. It's not entirely terrible. The mystery that it set up was really intriguing throughout, and I loved that the case was music-centric, as proven by how much fun I had with the in-game mixing board. But then it devolved into an irritating and repetitive nightmare. Constant flashbacks to an unskippable cutscene that looks ugly and is stupid because it doesn't have voice acting, to culprits with completely unclear motives, an over-reliance on twists to the point where the entire case becomes ridiculous and nonsensical. Not to mention, it also fell into two of my least favorite tropes in Japanese media, a child being a culprit, no, not of the murder, but still, and a dumb amnesia subplot that we really don't even need to talk about. Turnabout Serenade gets a 4 out of 10. Oh yeah, Machi also turns out to not even be blind. Lemuel was the actual blind one. How the fuck did she manage to run through an air ventilation system from one side of a stage to another side on the opposite side of the venue in 2 minutes, all while perfectly maintaining her singing, which somehow was the same exact sound quality as it was on stage? This case is stupid. I have good news though. Case 4, the final case in the game, isn't fucking stupid. In fact, it's the best case in the game. This is Turnabout Success. Oh fuck, I already made a Succession joke in my last video. Cut this out. This case was pretty fucking incredible. Like, incredible to the point where it was almost a 10 out of 10 case in my book. Almost. So what made it so good and what kept it from, in my opinion, being a 10 out of 10? Well, to find out, we'll have to dive pretty deep into the case, so let's dive into it. Troop Grammarly is coming back, baby, and Trucy's got a ticket. Phoenix, who is temporarily back from his mission of researching the juris system that the court is thinking of reviving, tasks Apollo with the extremely important task of babysitting Trucy. Oh, and also, defending a client who's been accused of murder. So to the detention center we go, and upon arriving there we meet Vera Mishim, who I love so much. Like, I'm not even playing, she's one of my favorite Ace Attorney characters, and I love her story so much. She's also heavily implied to be autistic. It's never confirmed, but it is cool to get kinda representation for that. Anyway, she's being nonverbal right now, so we make our way to the actual scene of the crime to piece things together and find Emma there, hell yeah. So here's what happened. The victim was Drew Mishim, an artist who died from poisoning. The reason why Vera, his daughter, also an artist, was arrested is because it's believed that she laced her father's coffee with poison, but upon examining the scene, we find out some shocking details. There are no traces of poison in the coffee, rather they were only on one spot of the rim on the mug. Where most of the poison traces are found is this one tiny picture frame. We also find a painting that's hidden for some reason in a red envelope, and since Emma's here, we get to do an X-ray analysis on the envelope, a completely new feature. And after we do that, we find the full cryptic contents of the letter, and they are as follows. Mr. Drew Mishim, I've deposited the $100K in the designated account. Please send a receipt once you've confirmed the transfer. Sign the papers and send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp within 3 days. I need not remind you to speak of this to no one. Thanks to Emma, we find out that Drew died during an interview with a reporter and that he's currently interviewing Valent Grammarly at the Sunshine Coliseum, so we go there. Except that the reporter's not there anymore, he's at the detention center now. But before we head there, we talk to Valent and find out some true Grammarly lore. Of the 4 members, these are the only ones still active, with Magnify, the leader, being dead, and Zack and Thalassa, who both look very familiar, both having fucked off somewhere, with the former being legally pronounced as dead due to having been missing for over 7 years. At the detention center, we meet the reporter, Spark Brushel, who is one of the most memorable witnesses in the game. Mainly because he's the exact personification of this image. He's not very helpful here, but he does inform us that a painting with a description that is eerily similar to the hidden one we saw earlier was stolen. And thanks to Emma, we get to the bottom of that mystery. Drew Mishim was a forger. No, not that kind of forger, who stole the works of other artists. Damn. Rip Drew Mishim, you would have loved AI. During the trial the next day, we find out that Drew had some other shady hobbies, such as forging evidence 7 years back, proving a clear connection to the world of crime, a possible reason for the cryptic letter we found earlier, and a possible reason for Phoenix's disbarment, as forged evidence may have been planted on him in the trial that got him disbarred 7 years ago. We end up confirming that the real source of poison was the enclosed stamp mentioned in the letter from the red envelope and encased in the tiny picture frame, and during the rest of the trial we uncover more and more shocking truths. Firstly, Vera was the forger, not Drew. When Vera was 12, Drew discovered that she had an innate ability to perfectly copy existing paintings, and tricked her into creating forgeries for him to sell on the black market. Secondly, Drew had Vera forge the evidence that had brought Phoenix down 7 years ago. And third, Drew's death was originally supposed to occur 7 years ago to tie up any loose ends. The client who had requested the forged evidence sent him the stamp, but he didn't end up using it due to Vera being attached to it. After all, it was a stamp that depicted the famous troupe Grammarly. But before we can find out more, Vera suddenly collapses and is placed into intensive care. After the trial is brought to an early end, we find out that Vera had also been poisoned. Luckily, not with a lethal dose, but with enough to knock her out. And while she's hospitalized, Apollo thinks to himself, just what is this connection to the case 7 years? Pause. Here's where the case fucks up. Hi there, lovely viewer, you're looking great today. Where'd you get that shirt from? It looks amazing on you. No, that wasn't a yes or no question. Anyways, I'm going to give you 2 choices here. If you guess correctly, you get, the custody of my non-existent children. The question is, how does Turnabout Succession solve the mysteries from the case 7 years ago and connect them to the case today? Does it A, have Apollo research the case and find out the necessary details and evidence needed to solve it and connect it to this case? Or B, does it put us back into the perspective of Phoenix using a random, lazily implemented system? If you guessed B, you're correct. So yeah, after bringing us back in time to witness the trial from 7 years ago firsthand, the game thrusts us into the Mason system, which from what I can tell is a, system that lets you examine past and present events from cases. How? I don't fucking know because it's never explained and never gets brought back again after this case, nor is it ever featured before it. I'll give it credit though, it's cool to see a game mechanic that also doubles as an example of lazy writing. Anyways, thanks to the flashback to the 7-year-old trial, the Mason system, and the second trial for the present case, we find out the truths behind all of these mysteries, and here they are. It all started 7 years ago. Magnify Grammarly, former leader of Troop Grammarly and current victim of liver cancer, was about to die, and had to choose one of his students to succeed him. He had sent letters to Zack and Valent, his students, to come to the hospital during his IV treatment and kill him by shooting him in the head. However, he sent Zack's letter first, and when Zack arrived, he found himself unable to kill his teacher, instead shooting a clown doll near his hospital bed. This caused Magnify to wake up, and he told Zack that he had passed the test, giving the rights to him. Valent arrived later due to his letter arriving later, but like Zack, he couldn't bring himself to kill his teacher. When Magnify broke the news that Zack already had gotten the rights, Valent was pissed, and thus, when he heard Magnify shoot himself when he had left, he came up with a plan to frame Zack for his death and become Magnify's successor. And thus, the matter was taken to court. The one and only Christoph Gavin decided to handle Zack's defense, and he had young Vera forge evidence that would paint Valent as a murderer. He also gifted Vera with a bottle of nail polish that secretly contained the same poison used to kill Drew. You see, Vera has agoraphobia and bites her nails when she's anxious. Hell yeah, nail biter solidarity. Meaning that the poisoned nail polish would act as a ticking time bomb in case Vera grew up and testified about the forgery, which she did, and it did. Also, yeah, Christoph paints his nails. Damn, that guy really proves that you can be both scary and zesty. However, not everything went according to plan for Christoph, as Zack announced that he wanted Phoenix to defend him instead. This enraged Christoph, who used Zack's daughter, Trucy, 8 years old at the time, to unknowingly plant the forged evidence on Phoenix, and the rest is history. Phoenix got disbarred, adopted Trucy, and Zack vanished. Except he didn't die. He changed his identity to Shady Smith, a traveler who would meet his fate at the hands of Christoph in Case 1. Back to the present though. Nervous about the rest of the people involved in the case telling the truth about what happened, Christoph unsuccessfully attempted to kill Vera with a nail polish, as we know, but he was also the one that gave the stamp to Drew, successfully killing him. As a result of all of this information being uncovered, Vera is declared not guilty and gets better in the hospital, and Christoph is declared guilty, now being imprisoned for not 1 but 2 murders, plus 1 attempted murder and a fuck ton of other crimes too. Like I said before, Turnabout Succession was easily the best case in the game and absolutely could have been a 10 out of 10. But unfortunately, thanks to the severe case of lazy writing that is the Mason system segment, it doesn't quite hit that mark. But regardless, it's an incredible case, and it was extremely fun to piece together the game's almost overarching mystery, and finally bring justice, no pun intended, to the game's final boss. Not to mention, the case does a great job of resolving character arcs. Trucy finds out the truthsy about her father, Clavier gets to find out the truth about his brother, Christoph gets his ass handed to him for real this time, Vera gets closure, and the truth about Troop Grammarly, the group of some of the greatest magicians as well as the group of some of the shadiest people, comes out. Hey wait, are you including Thalassa? What did she do? Well, surprise, it turns out that she's actually alive, is Lamiror, and is also the mother of both Trucy and Apollo, and does not tell them. Overall, Turnabout Succession is a fantastic conclusion to this good, flawed but good game, and I would give it a 9 out of 10. Before I move on to delivering my final verdict on the game though, let's talk about the non-story categories. Those categories being the characters, art, and music. First of all, the characters. This game has some great fucking characters. Trucy is my favorite new character from the game, first of all. I mean, she's just so fucking cute, and she has a really fantastic story to boot. Clavier was zesty and awesome as fuck, and again, he had a pretty great story. Christoph was an incredible villain, like, one of the best ones in the series. I love the Kitaki family, especially Waki, and like, finding out that people hated him had me in shambles. Alita was a cool villain, even if she was kind of a Dahlia knockoff, and Vera was fantastic, and the game did a great job of showing how fucked up Troop Grammarly was, especially Zack. Like, that dude had me genuinely tweaking every time he was on screen. Oh, and I guess Valen was pretty cool. Ew! Oh! What the fuck? Where did his mustache go? Emma coming back was super exciting too, and I loved her every time she was on screen, and oh yeah, I should mention that they briefly bring back Gumshoe in the flashback scene in Case 4, which was so awesome. Unlike the brief return of Mike Meekins. Out of every fucking Ace Attorney character, why are you bringing this annoying fucker back? You might notice though, I didn't mention Apollo or Phoenix in the list of my favorite new and returning characters from the game. And yes, I did that on purpose. This game really sucks at making Apollo the new protagonist, as it constantly sidelines him to give Phoenix more of a story. Granted, Phoenix's story in this game is pretty good, but as a result of it, Apollo sees a significant lack of character establishment and development. I'll talk more about this in a full video on this issue, so subscribe so you can see that when I make it. But for now, let's talk about the art. The character designs, environmental designs, and overall art are incredible, barring a certain aspect of Case 3, and the HD remaster really helps to show that. They're also, looking back, especially good considering what the next game in this series looks like. As for the music, the introduction of new tracks, as well as reworked classic tracks, for the music in the game is awesome. Trucy's theme, Emma's theme, and the Troop Grammarly theme stand out as my personal favorites. And now, it's time for me to give my final verdict on Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. Overall, this game was a really fun and enjoyable experience, and while it was definitely bogged down by stuff like lackluster writing and the entirety of Case 3, it also contained some of the best moments in the franchise. I would give it a 7 out of 10. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this surprisingly long video that was going to be even longer if I didn't cut out stuff from the script and some stuff from the video. So yeah, if you couldn't tell already, I worked very hard on this one, so if you wouldn't mind, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and all of that stuff, because I'm really hoping to hit 1K subs by the end of the year, and if you turn my post notifications on, you'll get to see my review of Dual Destinies when I make that video, and I think you'll want to see it because I will be complaining a lot in it. And also, feel free to comment your thoughts on this game as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. But for now, bye! I call this next trick child abandonment.